the needle on the record.
Finds Barrett. Get a shot up. This is for the win. Oh, it's good. The window. Wins it for the Knicks.
All right, New York Knicks fans, it's Tim of the Online Big Blue, bringing you the best in New York Knicks sports talk entertainment. It's draft day, or I should say draft day is tomorrow. It's mañana. We're all ready for this because you know what? We're ready to revamp this Knicks team. We're ready to get back into the playoffs. We're ready to make things happen. We want to talk about the draft today. We want to talk about the salary cap a little bit. We want to talk about Jaden Ivey. We want to talk about a lot of things Knick-wise. Because you know what? There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of rumors going on. There's a lot of scuttlebutt going on. There's the talk about the Knicks trading up to number 4 to get Ivey. Listen, I am all aboard the Ivey train. I am. I am ready. There's a crazy train, and I'm on the Ivey train. But you know what? I don't see it happening. Trading down for the Sacramento Kings just does not make sense. And for what the Knicks have to offer, it just doesn't make sense for this team. Now, the Knicks are going to have to give them a king's ransom to move up into that 4 spot. Ivey would be the solution and the best player and best point guard available for the Knicks. It would give the Knicks that true point guard that we haven't had since, going back to Mark Jackson, Rod Strickland, Gray Anthony, going way back into the day. But I just don't see it being feasible for the Knicks. Now, the Knicks have assets. And I find this interesting because I think a lot of people don't truly understand what the Knicks draft capital looks like over the next 4 years or 3 years. Right now, of course, we have the 11th pick and we have the 42nd pick, which are our own. Next year, we have our own pick. First round, that's in 2023. We have Dallas's. But then we have 1, but not 2, but not 3. But we have 4 second-round draft picks. We have our own. We have Detroit's. We have Utah's. We have either KC's, Washington, Dallas, or Miami's. And then in 2024, we have our own first-round pick. And then once again, we don't have but 1, but 2, but 3, but 4 second-round draft choices. We have Detroit. We have Utah or Cleveland's. We have Miami. And we also have our own. So we have the draft capital. We have the plethora of capital that we could use draft-wise to make a move such as this, to move forward, to be bold, and mighty forces will come to your aid. But the question is, how bold do the Knicks want to be? How much space or how much room do they actually have to move forward to make a trade such as this? Could you throw in Julius, rock the mic like a Randall? You could, but I don't see that happening. I don't see the Kings making that type of move. I think it's going to take first rounders. And I think it may take multiple first rounders. I think it'll take this year's. You can't do next year's because you got to skip a year. But I think you would have to give up at least 3 first rounders for them to even pick up the phone, to be interested. I'm telling you this, Ivey to me would cure the Knicks' ills. I said it 2 years ago before they got Derrick Rose that this team was a true point guard away from having something special happening in the Garden. And, of course, Rose got hurt last year, and we didn't have that point guard anymore. For all the people that hated Peyton, I said this one thing about Peyton repeatedly. Peyton was a professional point guard. He is a professional point guard. For all of his shortcomings, he still facilitated for the Knicks. And this is what we're lacking. This is still what we need. Now, everyone's going to talk about Jalen Brunson, but I'm going to tell you this. Cuban's not going to let him go. The Knicks are being said to being targeted, at least getting $25 million in cap room to go after the point guard. But Cuban has already said, you know what, I'm going to open up the bank. I'm going to open up the bank to keep him. We would have to find new homes for Burks, for Nerlens Noel. If you did that, that's $10 million from Burks, 9.5 or 9.2 for Noel. And we'll still have to clear out a little bit more. We would love to get rid of Evan and that $18 million salary. I said this before and I got blasted for it, and I'm going to repeat it again. I said 2 years ago or a year ago when this was signed and happened that it reminds me, it reeks of Allen Houston. That this contract was going to be the Allen Houston anchor for 2021. I liked the Kemba Walker move. I really did. I thought that was a perfect move. I didn't know how shot his knees were. I don't think anyone did. So I can't blame the organization for that one, but we're going to have to try to find a way. We could stretch him and that $9.2 million to get a little bit more cap space. But right now, the Cuban has already said that he is willing to open up the checkbook to keep Brunson, that he will go into the tax to do it. That tells me there's not much capability there. And I understand that because he wants to keep a key cog. He feels it's a key cog, and I understand that cog. So what does that leave with the Knicks? Where does that leave us with the draft? It's an interesting prospect because you have a lot of people right now looking at Johnny Davis, the 6'4" sophomore shooting guard out of Wisconsin. I think he is a nice fit for the Knicks. But I think you're going to have to move on from some guys because we have a log jam of veterans that are really kind of hindering the Knicks, kind of hindering their movement. And you're basically going to be adding another young wing player, to the plethora that we already have. And he's not a point guard. He could be a 3-and-D guy. And I think his wingspan is what everyone looks at in reference to the Knicks organization and how he could potentially fit into this type of rotation. Some of the things you have to look at with Davis is he's going to thrive as a mid-range scorer. He can't create his own shot. He seems to be smart defensively. I think on a winning team, a winning organization, he's going to be he'll be almost an immediate contributor. I have a feeling with that. But you know what? He showed a little bit also that his 3-point shots aren't completely there yet. He still needs to work on that. But like I said, he could be the best 3-and-D guy in the draft. And I think at that 11 spot, he would make sense. I know some people have Washington Jr., the kid out of Kentucky, as the Knicks pick at 11. I'm not liking that. I'm not liking that move. To me, that reeks of desperation. He is a former 5-star recruit. He's a knockdown shooter. He does thrive off the ball. You have to give him that. But he's a guy that you're going to have to find that untapped potential. Is he a true creator? Is he an innovator? Is he an initiator? I don't know. He had a 27% assist rate playing, of course, in the SEC, which was 11th among players in his conference. And he actually gained that by basically playing almost exclusively with almost as a second teamer at times. I think he's an interesting fit. If you were going to go Washington Jr., I would trade down if I was the Knicks. I'd be looking to move that. And now everyone's always talking about the Knicks trading up. What about the scenario of trading down? What about the scenario of maybe dropping into around 16, 17 and maybe trying to find another late draft choice? I think there's some guys later in the draft that would be interesting for the Knicks. If you could not get your target, if you could not get who we need, if you could not get Jaden Ivey, if you can't pick him up, why not? Why not look at the opportunity to trade back, to build more assets? And like I said, we just went over the multitudes of assets the Knicks have coming up, especially with second round picks. We have something crazy like almost 10 second round picks in the next 2 years after this draft. Why not try, why not continue to build assets? Because you know what you can do with those second round picks? You can multiply them, turn them around, and push them into first round picks. And then make a push for another player. My biggest thing with the Knicks is I don't want them to reach. This team, in my estimation, is at a tipping point. We could fall back into who we were just recently. We could push who we would like to be with that 2020 team. You need to keep this young talent. You need to. I've said it before. I thought signing Randall was a mistake. I would have let him go because of the fact that if you have Obi Toppin, if you have R.J. Barrett, you have Cam Reddish, you have all these other guys that need playing time, need opportunities, need to work together. You got the Quick. He just doesn't fit into the true scheme of what this team could be. Julius Randle, that is. So I would be curious. I also like A.J. Griffin, but of course he's a starting forward. I find he would be an interesting guy. He is another guy that is a good wing shooter. Could potentially be a 3-and-D guy. If you want to look at total potential, there could be star potential there. But then again, you're kind of jamming up at 6'6" with Obi Toppin. You're kind of jamming it all up with RJ Barrett. You're kind of jamming it all up with Julius Randle. But let's think about it. Let's look at the initiation of potentially trading. Let's not be shocked. Let's not be stunned if the Knicks trade down. Let's not be. But I think the consensus from what I've seen is going with someone that is going to be a facilitator, that has the potential. I think Johnny Davis, if you want to have a guy that's going to fit that mold, I think he could fall into the shooting guard position. Then you're going to have to see how you're going to divide his minutes with a lot of players on this team. Outside, like I said, outside of Ivy, I don't foresee a true point guard in this draft. I should rephrase that. I don't see a true quality point guard in this draft at this point in time. But you know what? This Knicks team is going to get younger this year. Maybe we can move, like I said, maybe we can move on from some of these contracts and get out from under some of these deals. Maybe Mr. Rose is going to have something up his sleeve. Who knows? You know what? If the Knicks somehow get to 4, if they break the bank and get to 4 and basically maybe use Randle and some assets, I would love it. Do I think it's going to happen? No. I don't think the Brunson thing's going to happen either. I think we're going to get a non-point guard in the draft and kind of see where we go from there. It's going to be fun on Thursday, which is tomorrow. So you know what? Also got some Knicks videos coming up. More Knicks videos coming up. Got some Met videos coming out. We got some Giant videos coming out as well. And again, this is Tim of the Online Big Blue, bringing you the best in New York Knicks sports talk and entertainment. And as always, if you could if you subscribe, if you ring that bell, you know what it means. That'd be awesome.